Welcome to the Big Fat Real Estate Checks podcast with Marco Kozlowski, where we help investors like you get the knowledge and skills you need to replace your JOB with passive cash flow for life.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Big Fat Real Estate Checks. I am your affiliate leader, Marco Kozlowski, and I'm joined today with Gabriel Araish and Frank Galuccio, where we will be discussing today yet more fun things related to how to buy real estate using none of your own money, developing skill sets that will allow you to use none of your own money, I should say, because you bought things at the right price, have the right team in place, and know exactly what to do as things go right, left, and sideways, zigzagging around, which is all part of the fun in this business. And today, we're going to give our final, or perhaps semi-final, chime and chirps on tenants and what do they do if they destroy your place. Because I know in different areas you have different remedies. First, we'll talk about what happens in Canada, where we're all from. If a tenant destroys a property, what the heck we can do, and what our remedies are in the United States if the same thing happens. Because there are different remedies based on different geographical locations, and we can discuss them. Now, I should say it's not a matter of if your tenant will be destroying things. It's a matter of when your tenants will be destroying things.
Well put. Well put. Actually, maybe we should start with why would they destroy things before you get into
the ultimate mystery. Why are you breaking my shit?
You know what? Well, tenants, they obviously have their minds of their own, and they do shit that you can't explain. So I don't know if that's a good start to this podcast and explaining why people do shit, because we'll be here forever. But I know I had some incidents where, tenants got a little bit irate and started going on a rampage. Some of them, usually it happens when we post a 3-day notice. So just going back to our other podcast is, when they're in arrears and rent and we post, we have a policy. Everyone knows there's nothing that we're not transparent about. So we tell them if you're late on the 3rd day, you're going to get notice. And when they do, they take offense to it. And it happened a few times where we posted the 3-day. I know Marco at the park. I don't know if I told you even this. I don't tell you half of the shit that happens at the park, but when we posted the 3-day, they knew they were on their way out. And they caught the kitchen on fire, and they said it just caught on fire. What are you going to do? I'm not paying. So they used it as an excuse. So going back to my first thing, why did they do it? So this guy or this couple, anyways, they knew they were in trouble. They were in arrears. They got posted a 3-day notice for eviction if they don't pay, and they caused a fire so an accidental fire, let's call it. So this way they can go back and have a defense for the 3 days and say, hey man, I'm not paying because I can't even cook in my own place. So I need some kind of credit. That's basically what happened there. So they did catch it on fire. And, in circumstances like that listen guys, you either got to have insurance or you got to call the cops immediately. And that's what we did in this case. We called the police immediately and we charged them with arson. Like that's clearly something that was done intentionally and maliciously, and they could have put a lot of other people in danger by doing so. So that's my take on that one. Anyways, at least one example.
So how did you know it was arson? How did you know it wasn't an accidental fire?
Well,
because the match and all the gasoline that was around the kitchen.
Yeah, I was wondering why I saw him at the racetrack, getting all the gas. No, it was clearly like all of our electrical things. You can clearly see what happened. He left the pot on, and because the fire started underneath the cabinet, so it was clearly intentional.
Right.
Because it wasn't electrical. If it was, it wouldn't burn the cabinets above, right? It would burn in the wall first, but it didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and if there's a crime that's committed, you can actually claim it on your insurance, and that's why insurance is so important. And your deductible on your insurance, if you do things right, is like $500. Could be a little bit more, but it's around 500. And our deposits, our security deposits are $500. So technically, it costs you nothing to get things fixed if you do things right. So you have the insurance, the deductible, and if it's a crime, if they destroy the place, trash the place, in fact, anything over $1,000 is a felony in the United States. So you actually can charge them and they can go to prison or get charged with a felony, which means they can never be president if they're living in your mobile home park and cause a felony.
Oh my God! If you're Canadian and listening to this, you're like, "What the hell are we doing here?" Says yeah. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's if you own property in at least I want to say in Montreal. I'm not sure. Maybe Frank, you can tell me if this happens in Ontario as well. But in Quebec, you own property, and an eviction notice is almost, it's like a request to a tribunal to be able to evict someone. So there's letters that go to your tenants. They're well aware ahead of time, 30, 60 days, and that's if there's even a court date that's announced. So in the meantime, yeah, I mean, they can break shit, they can do whatever they want, and you almost haven't. Well, there's almost nothing you can do. Yeah, and to add insult to injury, we're not even allowed to ask for a security deposit in Quebec. It's illegal to ask for one. And in fact, if you ask for one, they can actually take you to court and then, have you get some sort of sentence for it. So, in the case that you just mentioned, they can, if it's arson and proven, then that's a crime. But and the insurance, if you're insured, it's going to be considered a fire, and there's a deductible. But again, whatever that deductible is, you're going to have to pay out of your pocket, because there's no such thing as a security deposit. And ideally is if you're actually in the process of evicting someone, then chances are they haven't been paying. And in Quebec, that's at least 3 months of non-payment for you to end up in the situation of court. So not only do you not have a security deposit, you haven't collected rent for at least 3 months, maybe sometimes longer. So I still don't understand why we own property here.
3 months is bananas. Like, how do you pay your mortgage in 3 months? Like, it's insane. And you're in Quebec specifically. Sorry, Frank, for interrupting you. You have to use the leases from the Régie
du logement.
Régie du logement, Colin. And it's the government rules. You can't use your own lease.
There's rules on increases. In fact, even if I bring in a new tenant, bring in a new tenant, I have to tell them what the last tenant was paying on the lease. I got to write that down. So if I want to go from 800 to 850, I got to write that it was 800, and they can actually contest the 850 because it's too high of an increase.
I was just doing a webinar on this, and it's really funny that you say this, in that, you're allowed to increase rents. Like, you can't do that. I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't increase rents. I'm like, how? What? I've never, I forgot that Quebec is so terrible.
And I thought we had a democratic society.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, this is why I like the U.S. is because actually you just mentioned a few things, Gabe. Because in the U.S. we charge for the first month rent, the last month rent in case they do leave, and a security deposit. So if shit does hit the fan, so for instance, and it's usually the same amount of the rent. So if the rent's $1,000, we'll charge $1,000 for the first month, $1,000 for the last month, which we'll keep as a credit, and $1,000 security deposit. So if something like, they burn down the kitchen or whatever the case is, you can use that $1,000 security deposit as you can use that money, those funds, to pay your deductible, like Marco said, to pay your insurance to get a whole new place done. So it's crazy that you think we live in a democratic society, and then shit like this goes down. I never heard that. I don't have anything in Quebec.
You're not even allowed.
Other than you, that's crazy.
You're not even allowed to request post-dated checks. You understand that? Like
that I knew about. Post-dated checks are illegal, which it's crazy.
If they offer them, you can take them, but you're not allowed to make it mandatory or request them. Yeah.
Well, you're not allowed post-dated checks in the U.S. either, by the way.
Really? They can't give you post-dated checks?
If someone gives me a post-dated check in the U.S., if I give anyone a post-dated check, I can deposit them all, because a check is a check. Once it's a promise to pay, you can't post-date it.
Okay, so here
that's a very Canadian thing. A post-dated check in the U.S., I was giving people post-dated checks, like 3 post-dated checks, and then they cashed them all. I'm like, what the fuck? I just gave you 3 checks. You can't cash them all. And they're like, you gave me 3 checks. I deposited 3 checks. So I went to the bank and said, the dates are wrong. Got to put, like, I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
And they're like, sorry, check's a check. It's deposited. Doesn't matter if it's post-dated.
So why is there a date line on it?
It's a mistake. I don't know. So anyway, in the U.S.
Yeah, good to know.
Well, banking, I don't know if we've even had have we had a banking in the U.S. versus Canada? Have we even had this discussion?
No.
I don't think we did, but that
I think
would be
this
a
is going
great
to be a
topic.
great podcast, but it'll only be relevant to Canadians. But holy shit, I have some war stories on Canadian banks. But anywho, yeah, postage checks. No, you can't take that in the U.S.
No postage checks.
I'm sure there are landlords that do it, and but you can. I don't want to hurt anyone here, but you could take all the checks, put them in the bank, and they'll most likely go through.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's going back to whether the tenants deliberately destroy shit or what we do is we do a regular maintenance, because some tenants, they don't intentionally destroy things, but if there's a leak underneath the just say the sink or whatever, they'll just put a rag over there and just tie it up, and it's just leaking, and you won't notice, and then a month or 2 months go down the road, and all of a sudden now your cabinets underneath, your base cabinet is ruined,
destroyed.
your floor is destroyed. So that's another form of destruction to your property, and that's why the important is to have your manager do a maintenance check, go in, change a filter, do something. And you have access to your property, and if you give your tenants 24-hour notice, like it's in our leases, leases.
Yes.
You give notice and say we're doing routine check, and it's always going to be on the last Tuesday of the month or whatever it is. Here's your notice that we're coming in, and that's the reason you do it, is to prevent things like that. Because some tenants just don't give a shit. It's leaking, whatever, man. I'll put a rag or put a bucket or whatever the case is, or the leak's roofing, and they don't tell you anything, and it's going to cause more destruction than not.
And don't just tell them that you're going to do this in the lease. Do it. Like, I get it done. Send your manager in. That's part of their routine. They can pick a couple of units every week to go into, and that's just part of their weekly routine.
Yeah, the leases have every 45 days you can go in without, with uncontested. So if they're there or not there, we're going to give them notice that we're going to be there. But every 45 days, you could do an inspection check, and in specifically when you're dealing with Section 8 tenants, that historically, and I'm not saying that all Section 8 tenants are bad, because there's a lot of amazing ones out there that really do take care of their things, but sometimes they get rowdy, and any tenant can get rowdy, punch a hole in the wall, and they say, well, the hole was there. And they're destroying the property on the inside. So by taking inventory of the property and how it looked like beforehand, and having inspections every 45 days, they're actually violating their lease if they're not taking care of the inside, if you do it right, which means that you can hold them accountable to fix it or get the hell out. And if you evict someone in a Section 8, they're going to the bottom of the list for free housing or subsidized housing. So they become very compliant if you actually enforce the boundaries that you have. But so any damages can be actually remedied by the tenant, which is really what we're talking about here in this example of having the right language in your lease. So you hold them accountable and you say, this is what it was, this is what it looks like, and you tell them in advance. It also is a ritual when they first sign the lease, and they initial every little section, saying this section here, which should be done by your property manager, very important ritual. It says, we're giving you this in excellent condition. There's going to be a checklist of things that need to be fixed for the first 30 days, so make sure this is fixed. So we want to fix absolutely everything, but we're going to be doing inspections every 45 days after that. And if anything is not perfect, you're going to have to fix it, or we're going to have grounds to evict you. And it becomes a very compliant client at that point, and it's really, really good. So you can stave like some mass destruction, like fires, or I'm sure there's, we've got tons of bullet holes, dead bodies, although that's the ultimate form of littering, really.
Yeah, that's,
very encouraging.
And bio has, it's expensive.
Well, the bio we had one, Marco. Well, it wasn't a murder. It was a suicide, and the biohazard to clean up blood.
It's expensive.
Oh my goodness, Lord! It's a lot of money. We're talking thousands of dollars. I think it was excess of $5,000 to clean that one up. Too bad for Ron. Yeah, it was a nice guy. He had some issues. But going back to what you said, Marco, because I think Gabe mentioned this on the previous podcast, where you have a walk-through inspection when you move in, and they tick everything off and make sure everything's in good condition. But the inventory is important, because we had on my other property, I had people, they were swiping out the LED lights and certain things inside the unit, and they're like, hey, the lights don't work. And I was like, what the fuck? How many light bulbs are we going through and different things within the units? Like even simple things. like the faucets or whatever, and that's what made me realize that, they would swap out a faucet. Just say you had a Moen faucet, whatever, they would literally swap it out and say, this one's not working, it's leaking, because we never had an inventory of that. So having an inventory of things, people use, one tried to swap out the window unit, the air conditioner window unit.
Yeah.
We obviously knew it wasn't ours, it was a total different make, but that maybe wake up and say, you know what, we should put in that unit, we should know the serial number for each appliance.
Correct.
And everything in there. To avoid that. So that's another way of, getting ripped off.
I actually have a horror story around that. And we were buying a mobile home park, and the maintenance cost on this on the ledger when we were buying this was insane. And so I went in not as a buyer, but I went in as someone to look to rent to the manager that was there. And he was bragging that the old man that owned the place had no idea what we were what you can do here just to to get a few extra bucks is just say that your air conditioner's not working. He's going to buy you a new one, and then I'm going to take an old one that doesn't work, and then I'm going to put the old one where the new one should be. I'm going to sell the new one, and we'll split the cash. So the guy's bragging that he's literally screwing the owner on all maintenance repairs, and he's literally just he's confessing, but he's actually just bragging, and I couldn't believe it. And the guy's 80 years old. He can't afford it. The guy's crying because he can't make ends meet, and I felt so bad. And I was really pleased I was able to take care of it, buy it, and address legally this guy's scam. But every tenant was rotten because of it. So I wanted to buy it just to help out this old man, because it just wasn't fair. They were killing this guy. Sweet guy, had no idea how to handle people, and he was just really being screwed. And sadly, this old man really trusted this guy. So, again, that's that form of fraud and thievery can be really rampant if you don't have the right people in place. I don't think we have a podcast on that yet, making sure you have the right people in place, but we can add that to the list somewhere. But so.
That's unfortunate, because the same thing happened to me. They were not only swapping out, like I said, the AC unit, but some of them were actually taking, now not in their own unit, they were taking literally the floors that we would put in the next unit. So if we put in floors in the next unit, like laminate, they're usually tongue and groove, where you slide one into the other one. You go back the next day, and they said, the manager says, hey man, all the floors are gone. I realized later it was the maintenance manager that was taking that shit, because I had another person on the property as my spy, and they were saying, no, he's taking your material out of the property, making it look like a theft, and he's doing another job. And that was our maintenance manager. So it's not just the tenants, and because you sparked something, Marco, when you said that about your tenants that they were, and your manager. You got to be really careful. And sometimes you want someone to take a look at your manager, like a third party, just to go there. You pay him, a couple of things, and a couple of bucks
Secret
just to go out there. A secret shopper, and that's what was going on with our maintenance manager. He was taking shit from our rehab projects, because we were rehabbing each unit, and little things were missing here and there. Like, I thought we had more tiles. No, we don't have no more. So I must have took them, which was him anyway. So. It's you definitely got to be careful. Otherwise,
so how do we prevent it? Because this whole podcast is preventing it. So, and how to deal with it. So let's perhaps we've gone on a lot of different tangents here, which is very unusual for the three of us.
Of course,
we always stay on track, and we never go into crazy mode.
So for me, I have that. Well, go. Sorry, Gabe. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say we addressed preventing the. The damage behind the properties, were the checkups and the walkthroughs and all that. I mean, and you hit it. I mean, I don't know if you want to do this in another podcast, but having the right people in place is the only way to prevent things like these two horror stories that you guys talked about. That I have no clue how come you guys have so many of these, but it's insane. Like,
it's Marco's fault.
To take a faucet and try and steal that's there's one thing about keeping inventory on air conditioners and refrigerators and whatnot and stoves, but to start kind of having an inventory of your faucets and all that's I don't think I even have that on my list. I'm gonna have to add that. So thanks, Frank, for your, I guess this is item 216 on your list.
Yes.
Item 216 of the spreadsheet of that spreadsheet of the spreadsheet within the spreadsheet.
We're down to the screws in the wall, but if they take screws out of the wall, we know it's our screw.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, having the right people is the only way to prevent this, and that's not easy. It's property managers. We've been through how to pick them.
Oh, I didn't want to stop you in mid track. I was just going like this.
Hey man, time
sorry,
out. That's time out.
Like,
that's
okay,
time out.
I'm not touching.
Time
I'm
out.
not touching.
I thought I froze.
No. You didn't
I
freeze.
thought
That was
I
hilarious.
froze again. I was like, no, not again.
I was just doing this. If you're just listening to this on a podcast with no visuals, we have hand signals for each for things. So I want to say something. You want to say something, and I did a new signal, which is Gabriel plays soccer, and it's like the timeout. And I wasn't trying to say that.
It's universal.
What I was trying to say is, let's do this on another podcast and not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
That's all I was trying to say. So, sorry, Gabe.
That's
for
okay.
Totally ruining your focus. I apologize.
It's
my bad.
It's all good. But basically, you have the right people in place, and yes, we will address this on another podcast.
Because actually, I think it's a great topic.
It is.
Tune into that. It's neat how we think of ideas. Frank, I know you have something to say. I can see you like shaking.
Well, no, just on the preventative, just well, you can't prevent stupid. Like that's you can try to mitigate that, but with our maintenance manager, what we did is I hired an inspector. I think I told you this. I hired an inspector, an inspector in the city. They come out and do property inspections. So I got them to come out every 2 weeks while we're rehabbing to take a look. To see what was going on, to make sure things weren't missing, and to make sure things are being done properly. So that's one way to mitigate it. Another is, listen, I have managers' accounts. So even if the manager's in cahoots and they're trying to pocket something, I have a manager's account where they only have like $500 slush fund in there. What's so fun? I'm missing something.
You said I cap. You said I have a manager that I cap.
Oh, no, I don't cap shit. No. Okay, we gotta edit that shit out. That's Frank After Dark. For those who want to subscribe, click the button below, which is in white. You can't see it. We don't cap no one. We don't decapitate anyone here.
And I kind of thought that this was another podcast.
I thought we were talking about the tenant damage, not damage to people. No.
Oh my god, that is tenant damage.
Yeah, that is tenant damage. That's the other way to mitigate them. Just get rid of them, guys. No, don't do that. I don't condone that. At least not on this podcast. We don't condone that.
Same here.
but we're not decapitating or removing people's limbs.
We're not capping people's asses.
But no, anyways, that's one way I would do it. Are you going to prevent it 100%? Absolutely not. So I'll just burst everyone's bubble now. It's just, you can probably reduce it, but you're not going to, there's no foolproof thing to get.
You got to control. Controlling it is what it is. Mitigating your risk.
Yes. And if you have the right conversations with the right people at the right time, they're going to know that you know what you're doing, and they're going to know that you can't be fucked with. And that's really the beginning is prevention, right? The best lawsuit is lawsuit prevention, never getting into a lawsuit to begin with, never evicting. As we said, the best way to evict someone is never even get into a position where you're getting someone that's going to be a bad tenant. So mitigating those risks. Same thing with with what we're discussing today. So if you have the right tenant with the right rituals, with the right people in place, you're really going to lower that and set the expectation that we're watching. We know what you're doing. We're looking. We know we're going to be able to tell if you're trying to pull a fast one on us. And it's still going to happen because Murphy is a partner whether you like it or not. We have two partners all the time: the IRS and Murphy, and they're both humping our leg every single day, waiting for something to happen. And you have to be conscious of those two partners because they're your partner. And if something can go wrong, it will. And if you know what you're doing, Murphy goes from boogie monster to small little flea, but they can still bite and still itch and still scratch. So I think we nailed enough to cover for today. Thank you both, gentlemen. Again, if you love this series, please like it, love it, download it, share it, subscribe, and tell all your friends or frenemies so we can spread the wealth, spread the word, help others achieve financial independence and freedom with skill sets, not money. You don't need money to make money. You need skill sets to leverage other people's money in order to make as much money as you choose for the rest of your life. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you both. And of course, the listener, thank you very much, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be doing this. So thanks again. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Bye for now.
If you like this episode of Big Fat Real Estate Checks, then show some love by leaving a comment and a good rating. Also, as a thank you for tuning in today, we've got a special free gift. The journey to passive cash flow for life starts by finding deals, and it's easier than you think. Simply go to getdealsbytuesday.com, enter your email address, and we'll send you a free quick start course called Deals by Tuesday. Even if it's 11 p.m. Monday night, this course will show you how to find discounted real estate deals by Tuesday. It's that fast and simple. Go to getdealsbytuesday.com and start your journey toward life-changing cash flow today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.